my brother-in-law said to me, his son's just turned 19s, and he's like, I thought it would be the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I realized it was a train coming.
Hey guys, and welcome to the SkilledDad podcast. My name's Zach Reeser. I'm your host, and if this is your first time joining us, I want to say welcome. And if you're back for another episode, part of the SkilledDad Society, I want to say welcome back. You know, when we look at the things that we do every day, whether, we've got our meetings and our business that we're running or our teams that we're leading, and then we go home and we're leading that team, there's a lot of times where we're like, hey, how do we continue to move the ball in each court? How do we continue to make progress one way or another, both on the career front, on the dad front, the husband front, whatever it is that you're going after? And sometimes, I don't know about you, but for me, it's just like I get home and I'm like, man, I'm out of gas, or I'm not getting these things done at work that as much as I want to, but I need to make that commitment to coaching my team that I've signed up to coach or whatever it might be. It could be a lot to go after all these things. But if that's you, hey, you're not alone. That's myself. That might be my guest here in a second that I'm going to introduce. But I know I talked to a lot of other dads who are really pushing it every day, wherever their feet are. And the cool thing is that's a season that we're in now. So if you find yourself in a place, I found myself in this place not long ago, when I realized I only have a couple more baseball seasons of coaching with my oldest son before he's going to either have to go play for bigger school teams, but I'm not going to be able to be in that. And so that was like, okay, that's some fuel for my fire to keep going because it's going to be gone quick. Just like this last 2 months, it's snap and we're out of school already. So I've got somebody on here with me today that helps guys like you, like me, high performance leaders, people that are leading teams, athletes, come in and help kind of realign or get aligned, get focused. And he's a dad too. So Mr. Lee Eldridge is on with me today. Lee, I want to say welcome to the SkilledDad podcast.
Pleasure to be here.
And if you can't tell, Lee is of a different time zone than me, which is always good when we can make this happen. Morning, afternoon, wherever it might be. But dude, I'm glad we were able to make this one happen after both of us having to finagle around and scoot that calendar.
It took some time, but yeah, we're here now.
We are here. So Lee, I did a quick intro. You're a dad of 2. You're running your own company. So I'd love to learn more about that. But more importantly, I'll hand it over. Fill in the blanks. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just kick it off from there, brother.
Yeah. So probably it started off with kind of a fascination for the human body. I struggled with school kind of academically in terms of being able to maintain focus. So for me, playing sport was my outlet, my opportunity to express myself, to achieve, get recognition from peers and teachers and coaches, etc. And then I found that ability or that passion enabled me to start to study around the human body, the brain, the mind, what we do. So that led to a sports science degree, kind of come away from that degree, not sure what to do, kind of started doing loads of different types of sports coaching, field hockey, football, soccer, rugby, whatever it was. Did some stuff in schools to help teachers learn how to teach kids to move correctly. And then thought, actually, do you know what? I'd like to work in the elite environment. So headed back, completed a master's in human performance. During that time, got kind of exposed to professional sports and then started off working full-time in rugby. Was my main sport that I spent about 7 years in. And then opportunity came along. I moved to Switzerland to work for a performance company that look after lots of Formula One drivers, lots of motorsports athletes. And there was an opportunity for me to kind of shift my skill set from that performance environment of athletes across into a corporate world. Naively, I thought, this is going to be easy. The pressure is not as much, but it's not. Yeah, there's lots of things going on. There's lots of pressures. And that kind of led me to this kind of transition period to touch back into ice hockey in Switzerland. And really then, probably in that year, kind of went through that process of realizing actually I need to get clear on what I want to do, because it's not helping me. It's not helping me as a dad or as a husband. And that led on to this idea around cognitive athlete. It came from a discussion with a CEO based in Geneva. And so, yeah, and then moved back to London a couple of years ago, and now I've started this kind of process of building my own company, which has been a huge transition from, an expert, or a knowledgeable coach into marketing, sales, all those different areas that kind of get you across the line to get you out there. And that's really where I see, or where we end up now. I've got, my daughter turns 8 on Saturday and my son is 3. So I'm kind of right in the middle of a very, transition period. They're much more kind of starting to play together. They're starting to kind of argue a little bit more. He's starting to aggravate her a little bit. So there's all those kind of changing dynamics. And so, yeah, I find myself kind of working with lots of what I would call business dads, or, individuals that are driven, high performers, want to succeed in a corporate scenario, but then also realize that actually being a dad is quite important to them.
There's so much to touch on there. I have a quick question though. And I saw you hesitate, but I mean, you're in there helping the rugby players, the F1 guys. I mean, you were the expert that they called in the help. So you can call yourself the expert. That's good. But I'm curious, going from the level of elite performance athlete. I mean, F1 guys are like fighter pilots, man. Those guys they are just off the charts with what they're doing and their capabilities. But anybody at that level is taking it to a focus, a drive, a commitment that they're working hard for it, right? Was it Rory McIlroy, or I'm blowing this one up, but somebody said that I'm paraphrasing, but they wanted to, they would do anything to play like them or to have that gift. And he's like, it's going to take thousands of golf balls to hit when you don't want to make it the way that you want to get to that level. Totally butchered that, but it's a commitment level of what it takes. So I'm curious, when you see and work with guys in that arena, and then you make the switch to the corporate arena, what similarities or differences do you see, besides the fact that you've got like people that are trained athletes, but from a mental cognitive standpoint? You mentioned you thought it'd be easy. It wasn't as easy as you thought. Like, what have you seen so far? Because I think a majority of us listening probably fall in the latter group, in more the corporate setting, the business setting. If you're an F1 driver or professional athlete, holler at me, we'll talk. But
yeah, so I think probably the easiest way to start with the big differences, and then that builds into actually, look, what can we take as our similarities? So the biggest difference for me would be, if I was working in professional rugby, probably around the start of August, I'd get sent a list of, here are the fixtures, this is what it looks like. And from that, we could say, right, this is what the year's going to look like. These are when we need to peak. These are our weeks off, where are our training camps. So already we start to get a bit of a feel or a flavor. Now, obviously that might change, depend on results, etc. But we've kind of got this nice, not perfect, but an outline of what's going to happen. In business, it's not like that. Okay. It can be, or there is always rhythms to every industry that I work in. There's always kind of like, Christmas is a bit of a downtime. Summer is a bit of a downtime. Easter's we've just gone through, et cetera, et cetera. But, if we're looking at a week for a rugby player, Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, play on a Saturday, it's kind of very structured. So that's a big, big difference. The similarities are, the other difference is that, that Roy McIlroy is slightly different. Formula One is slightly different. But if you look at soccer players, rugby players, NFL, their career is pretty short. Most of them, I would say, are done between the age of 30, 35. So from our point as a strength and conditioning coach or a human performance coach, we're trying to milk as much of, if you're an athlete, as much as you've got out in that time to perform the best that you can best, potentially earn as much money as possible, win things, etc. Whereas from a corporate life, it's much longer, I don't know what is in America, but I would imagine by the time I reach my 60s, I'll probably be working till 70s, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a longer game that we need to play.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need to change the mindset of looking at peak performance and think of ourselves as more kind of sustainable high performance. How it's not, okay, yeah, it's great to be a great dad one day, but then if you're an idiot to your kids the day after and you're on this kind of up and down, it's not really what we're after. In terms of the similarities, the biggest one is that our well-being affects our performance and our performance affects our well-being. So as a dad, if you can start to take care of yourself a little bit better in terms of the big five I talk about all the time is, how much are you moving? What type of what type of movement you're doing? How well are you sleeping? How well are you eating? How well are you breathing? And how well are you thinking? They're the big five foundations, I think. It all gets very complicated for some people in different remits to talk about lots of different things. There's that one. And that's kind of foundation to the performance. And then look, if business is going well or, you're performing well in your job, that feeds back into wellness. You're obviously a happier person, and they're the big similarities that I see all the time. In a corporate scenario, it's difficult to get that focused time, energy work done because we're being interrupted. Average is 6 minutes every day. People normally have their email box open and they're just checking their emails all the day long. It's kind of those things that really kind of add up, basically.
Yeah. You're bringing up something that, especially you work with a lot of high level leaders within the corporate environment as well. And I think as a leader, in some of the roles that I have had in the past, I was guilty of this too. And from a team performance standpoint, I look back and how would I have structured it differently in later in the career, kind of learned to structure differently from before. But like when you go and interrupt somebody from their flow, if they've got flow, if they have flow, and if you don't know what flow is, just a quick thing, like the idea of flow is if you're ever in a zone, you're in the zone, you're focused on something, time's kind of flying, but you're getting it done. You've got flow. And so we want to attain that flow. But as soon as we get interrupted with that flow, what's the average? It's like 20 minutes to even get back to something like that. And then an 8-hour workday, 8-hour, depending on what environment you're in, that's really tricky. So like you said, it's tough to get in there. And the interruptions. But the other thing I've found, I don't know if you're seeing this and do you work with guys in the US? I know you work with UK. Do you guys all over the world then?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be an interesting comparison at some point as well. At some point, maybe not right now, but when we're in that corporate environment and wanting to get things done and you do really good, what I found sometimes the reward for doing good work is more work. And so there isn't that seasonality that you're talking about. Which is interesting. You did have one thing that you said that popped up, and we've talked about the sports environment, we've talked about the corporate, but the dad environment. And I was thinking, is there seasonality structure with being dad? And initially I was thinking, there is and there's not. But as I think through that, and you talk about milking the maximum amount that we can get for an NFL athlete because their time is limited. If we step back and look as dads, the kids really kind of get to that point of engagement, the 3 to 4 mark, where dads can kind of step in. We start wrestling, we start doing those things. they grow, they have that cognitive development, and like where we're really going to instill stuff up until the age of about 9 to 10. And then that shifts to get into teenage. And then at 18, hopefully, they're headed to become adults. And
Yeah.
our season hasn't peaked. Our job's not done as dads till the end of our life. But the role that we play might be different.
You
And
know,
so you got me spinning on that one.
because my brother-in-law said to me, his son's just turned 19s, and he's like, I thought it would be the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I realized it was a train coming. And so basically, I think you're right. I think, you know, very similar, I suppose, in terms from a corporate point of view. You know, you come in as the junior. You know, if we look at law, you junior, then you work up to associate, senior associate, partner, senior partner, da, da, da. And so from a dad's perspective, I think, you know, there's a lot more kind of physical hands-on stuff. And then as we get older, it becomes more mental stuff. It becomes more kind of being there for conversations. The physical aspect will always be there with dads. I hope, you know, I look in the next 10 years to be able to play football with my son or still, you know, be able to do that. And I think that our kind of role, we're still dads, but it changes, same as mums, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think there's seasonality during the course of the year, but you know, I've got nieces and nephews, and they're younger, and I see now, kind of like, yeah, the dad going through that first year of, you know, what he's going through, and that's kind of a chapter or a season that we've gone through. So I don't think it's seasonality, but I suppose, you know, my daughter started playing field hockey, so there is naturally a seasonality with the sport. Then summer will come around and we'll do something different, and then winter and da da da, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think from a, and this is nowhere kind of to disregard mums, but I think in society, I'm not sure what America is. So if you take a mum and, you know, she goes to work, everyone's like, no, she you know, she should be a mum. That's the most important thing. I think sometimes with a dad, you know, if he goes to work and then actually he's like, no, I don't want to go to, you know, I want to spend more time with my kids. Everyone's like, no, he's the provider. He's the breadwinner. He needs to be working.
Mm.
I think it can be, it's kind of like the mother and father discussion is similar, but different, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, people are trying to say, oh, you should be like that or should be like that. And I think you've got to find what suits you and which is your own way.
I would agree. And I would say, I don't know that there's, at least within the States, the conversation has kind of been moving around, and I think it depends on what part of the country you're in, what circles you're in, all of that. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but I think you hit on the point, which is that with our wives, partner, that you have the discussion about what you want the roles to be and what the expectations are. Because at the end of the day, outside of your household, it really doesn't matter. It's what's inside your household that does matter, so that as a team, you can operate efficiently and effectively, which then is going to go to your kids, and they're going to grow up in an environment that has the structure, the expectations, the roles. They may not see the structure, expectations, and roles like in their face, like, oh, this is a structure and expectation role. What they are going to see is high, healthy functioning. And that's what they're going to grow up in. And so I think that to me is the most important thing. And guys, if you're listening and you want to jumpstart on that, listen to 2 episodes ago where I sit down with my wife and Jessica Edding, who created the Jam Family Calendar. It's a planning calendar that brings in all of your stuff, like emails and everything, and will actually extrapolate dates and send you potential reminders of, hey, do you want to make this a thing? They hid this inside of the bottom of your kid's school email. Do you want to make this a reminder? It's pretty cool, but it was more a discussion about the mental load that moms carry. But my argument is dads carry mental load. It might be different, but the key is, are we discussing it so that we can then come up with a plan? Um, no, I'm with you. And as far as the seasonality thing, my mind went more towards like, it's more of like a season of years. Like it's buckets of where
Yeah.
do I need to be peak to step up, to be most impactful in this phase of my son's life, and then my daughter's, and then my younger son's. No, it's a fun topic. Um, I'm curious, just with who you work with and you being a dad, and 8 and 3, right in that mix, and you got the 5-year spread. So you kind of are on that verge. Some argue that after 5 years, you have like 2 firstborns.
Essentially, yes. We kind
Yeah.
of got to that stage where, you know, my daughter, yeah, she was pretty not independent, but sleeping all the way through, and I think it was kind of good. And then kind of just got into that rhythm of, going to be able to sleep 8. I think if any parent can sleep 8 hours consistently every night, parenting is much easier. Sleep deprivation is the biggest killer. Every person who's got a newborn out there is, you just know what they're going through. And I think, yeah, and also it's a girl and a boy, and there's differences, and you start to see that now, and how that comes through. I think it's a really interesting process. And on your point there, it's, I'm sure that we all know couples that from the outside look as if they're really strong units, et cetera, but then they split up. So potentially those things at home, they're not discussing, they're not having really challenging, difficult, but hugely rewarding conversations. And so it's an opportunity to, I think one is, as you said, with your partner or your wife, to kind of have those conversations, to create time for those difficult conversations, but then also to have time as a dad or as a male, or as a, to have those, whether that's, you spoke when we kind of first met about that kind of campfire, that round fire, that moment where it's just dads kind of talking about dad's things. And I think that's hugely important. If we look at human performance, we haven't changed 30, 40, 50,000 years ago. So we're still a very tribal based species. We kind of like that idea of sitting around a campfire, all the elders, and discussing things. And I don't think as men, it's really difficult, well, living in London, to find those opportunities, to basically trust the person, to be open to, and I think that's where the work I do is beneficial to the companies that I go in, because I'm completely impartial. It's confidential. But where I see, some of the law firms where they have mentors, and you speak to them, I was like, have you spoke to your mentor? They're like, look, is this going to stay with him, or could they go and tell somebody? And it's all kind of, this kind of hierarchical ladder situation, which is not good for anyone.
Yeah. It's an interesting point, and I don't know. I've not been to London. I've not been to the UK, sadly. My wife lived out there for a while, but the campfire scene. I had a conversation. He'll be coming on to the podcast. We haven't recorded yet as of time of this recording, but he works a lot with young girls, and he has daughters, and has kind of coached, and him and his wife had done a lot of things for over 30 years, and just awesome perspective. He has his own podcast, Raising Daughters, but he was talking about the experiences where they've had some different camps, and you have the girls, and then they have the boys together, and the girls are totally cool sitting around in a circle and chatting it up and doing that thing, and then when they do it, the boys are like hard to pay attention. They're like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be here. And you talk about campfires. Here we do, we do a cigar and bourbon night, just to hang around. But guys do stuff while doing things. Even a campfire is still doing a thing. It's not like we're just kind of sitting in a circle. Now, if you like to do that, that's fine. I've been in some of those too, but getting out, and what I've found is, like, whether it's campfire or it's a golf outing or whatever it might be, you might talk about business. We're going to talk about, hey, what do we do? And then we're talk about family. And then after trust is built through that experience, shared experiences build relationships. That's when we find the people in our tribe that we can start talking about life with, the things that we think we're the only one and that makes us really special and awkward, someone else is dealing with too. So I think to your point, if you don't have those out there, A, you can look for them and be bold and step into them. B, maybe you're the guy to start one. I'm just throwing it out there. If you're listening and you're feeling that, oh, I really wish I had that. Well, sometimes it's us that we have to do that and start it up. So I'm really glad you brought that up, and I forgot we had talked about that. But I've got one more question for you. You've got something on your site that I really like, which is it's not about tips, tricks, and hacks. It's about developing consistent high performance habits. So as you're working with or talking to a bunch of dads that are in the business world, but we're also a bunch of dads, what are a couple of the key habits that you've found that you'd want to throw out to somebody, or takeaways to think about and noodle on after we get through with the episode?
Yeah. So the out of those kind of 5 foundation we talked about, we can break down those into like simple things. So for example, let's look at sleep. If somebody is not going to bed, sorry, at roughly the same time every night, it's a big struggle. It's a huge struggle because you're just shifting your body's rhythm every day. You're not really getting into that rhythm. If you're looking at elite athletes, it's all about consistency, showing up, blah, blah, blah. So sleep, for example, is that big one. Another one that we all talk about is breathing. It's such a shame. I've got a son, he is 3. And if you look at him breathe, he's like a belly breather, using his diaphragm. And I know that now my daughter, who's 8 or will be 8, her breathing's already changed because she goes to school, she's sat down, her diaphragm's condensed. And so getting back to being able to breathe. So in terms of a sustainable performance, how we kind of breathe, how we sleep, and ultimately those 2 big rocks, we could go into loads of other things, but they're kind of some of the basic things that we get back. And loads of people turn around and say, oh, that's simple, that's easy. But I think what happens is that we mix simple and easy together.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are simple are not necessarily easy, and things that are easy are not necessarily simple. For example, if I said to somebody, right, hey, look, you need to go to bed same time, 10:30 every night. That's simple. Is it easy? No.
Mm-hmm.
Family, you've got a young family, baby wakes up, or, you've had to deal with something and then go back to an email or speak to a colleague. And then, oh my God, it's 11:30 and it doesn't happen. And I think that's a really, we have to walk 10,000 steps every day, give or take, whether you believe that, but we have to walk every day. Simple.
Mm-hmm.
Is it easy? Again, depends, doesn't it? You might have a schedule that allows you to kind of do walking meetings or travel and or you might be stuck at your desk for 8 hours and not be able to move.
Right.
So I think, that lots of conversations I have with business dads, they go, oh, that's it. That's simple and easy, isn't it? And I'm like, well, hold on. Whoa. And consistently do it. Don't do it for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Let's look at 6-month blocks, I think now in a day we live by, and I definitely saw this when I first started working in professional sports to when I left professional sports would have been a good 15 years. And working with young athletes 15 years ago compared to today, there's just a huge change. They're on social media, they're looking at Instagram, they're seeing what these elite athletes are doing. And whoa, you've got to kind of earn the right to be able to do those. We've got to have, that general preparatory of strength exercises to be able to do, your specific kind of funky things that look really cool on Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. I think lots of dads I speak to are in that, they're looking at the David Goggins of the world. They're looking at these people who just go off and do stupid, ridiculous, amazing things. And they're like, I can do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can do it, but it might take you, I don't know, a year, 2, 5, 10, 15 years of consistently showing up every single day. And the way that we do that is we move, we eat, we sleep, we breathe, we think, basically. Sorry, that's a long one on a.
No, that was fantastic. Master the fundamentals, and the fundamentals aren't that easy. It might be simple. So, okay. So sleep, breathing, food, thinking, moving. Did I nail them? Okay. Breathing, food, sleep. To me, those are all fuel items. So if we don't have fuel, it's going to be hard to think. And if we don't move, it's going to, like, that's our blood flow and everything too. So I would agree that I think a lot of us are underfueled, and then we wonder why we're out of gas. So that's really, how would someone gauge? Now they might know intrinsically, but if they think they're crushing it, just what's a little check to be like, hey, you know what? Okay, cool. You want to crush it? Here's a quick exercise or something that you can do to just really see. Let's go with breathing. If someone thinks that they've got breathing down, how do we give them a check mark or go try again?
So there's actually a really interesting breathing test. Well, there's two, but we'll go with the American one, which is the CO2 tolerance test. And basically, you breathe through your nose, okay, and so 4 times, and on the fourth one, what you would do is you take the biggest amount of air into your system, and then you get your watch or your phone and you start timing, and you basically let the air out of your nose. You keep your mouth shut for as long and as slow as you possibly can. And this work comes from the CO2 tolerance guys, and they have a state app, etc. And just test yourself. And I would say that the majority of people that I work with can't get over 30 seconds. And so we're looking at we should be close to a minute from that perspective. So that is a great.
Lots of dudes right now that are like holding their breath. Hang on, pause it.
Yeah.
They're going to see. So I love that.
Don't hold the breath. So just take the deep breath in and then nice and slowly and trying to empty it all out. And why this is really good is it kind of looks at how well your breathing function is, how well are you tolerating your carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide has been, the last 10 years is the science around, this, and the area of the brain that basically assesses how much carbon dioxide in your system is also very close to your stress, where you kind of assess stress. And so the thought process is, well, hold on a second. If we can tolerate more carbon dioxide, then can we tolerate more stress? And there's loads of really cool research, especially in younger adolescents at school, and is looking towards this. And so it's really interesting that, if you're ever in a swimming pool and you dive under a swimming pool and you think, oh my God, I need to breathe. It's not that you need more oxygen in your system. It's that you need to get rid of this carbon dioxide buildup. This is the kind of panic station, basically. So it's a really interesting kind of process to go through.
That is wild. No, that's really interesting. It's a whole new spin on it.
Okay. Yeah. So when I started sports science in early 2000, it was always like oxygen, VO2 max, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And then the last 10 years, it's like, well, hold on a second. Carbon dioxide isn't just a waste product. It's not something that we want to get rid of, because there's loads of cool science. We could go down a rabbit hole in terms of like why it's good to have carbon dioxide in your system and all these types of things. Mm. And you'll see it now. I don't watch much NFL, but I would imagine if you look along the sidelines now, as soon as, the defensive set have come off or whatever it looks like, or there's a break in the play, all the guys will be nose to nose breathing. They'll be trying to breathe through their nose, because if you think about it, your nose is designed to breathe. That's just one job. Okay. People might say smell, but realistically it's breathing. Whereas your mouth is designed to eat and talk. And the benefits of breathing nasally are, it's brilliant. And the last point is that, if you are stressed, or if your child's having a tantrum or something's going wrong, we'll say, hold on a second, take some deep breaths, count to 10, and it slows their physiology down, which ultimately affects their psychology. But if we're stressed and I turn around to you and said, hey, just calm down, if I told my wife, hey, just calm down, just breathe, just count to 10. Yeah, there might be a bit of a repercussion for that, basically. But that's where this kind of scientific stuff comes from, is that we can just slow down. I think my biggest learning is that from sports, we're always thinking about preparing for this stressful event. Whereas in business and sometimes being a dad, we don't prepare. We just let stress happen to us, and then we try to get on top of it. So, if you've come home from a stressful day and you've commuted and you've been in the car and there's been people cutting you up and road rage and whatever it looks like, or clients have been a nightmare, don't just basically get out the car, shut the door and go straight in the house. Take some deep breaths, close your eyes, reset that system, think about, right, how do I want to be as a dad? How do I want to be as a husband? And then enter into the kind of the new environment where, again, stress will come onto you from a different form, but that's the best way, I think, to do it.
That's great. Well, there's been a number of discussions about the transition period between work and home. Not throwing out all the things that we've learned for work that work well, and leading teams and listening well and active listening and, servant leadership and all those things. Step into dad zone. Don't throw that out the water, but put on the different hat. And some guys have come up with some different methods of how they do that. If you don't have yours yet, I suggest trying it out. This is a good way to start getting that breath in there. No, that's awesome. I love the science behind it. And I also love the idea that it's cool for us to turn around to our 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old and be like, take a breath, counts 10. And then we turn around and our wife says it to us. We're like, you calm down. No, that's for a friend. No, it's probably me. But yeah, it still works. It's there for a reason. I love it. I mean, we've only scratched the surface here. But just as we wrap, put the dad hat on. Anything you want to throw out there to all the dads listening? I mean, we're all in the mix together. You got 8-3. I got 10-7-4. I know a bunch of guys we got the whole spread. But from where you sit, I'll just give the final words to you.
Yeah. So actually, kind of this morning, I made a video around kind of the 9 things that I see dads that are really struggling, what they don't do. And I'll just probably pick on the 2 big ones I see is, one, as a dad, you need to celebrate your wins, however big or small they are, because, I've been in professional sports where, we win a game, we celebrate, and then, switch off, and we might wait a week, 2, 3, whatever it looks like to celebrate. Take the small wins, however it looks like, going to bed on time or getting your exercise in, whatever it looks like. And the last thing is, and I've been guilty of this definitely in my professional career, is we need to have some fun. I don't think I meet some people and I say, right, when was the last time you actually had some fun? And they really struggle to remember. I think fun is so important for multiple reasons. One, it's probably the best stress reducer that we can have, whether that's going to a comedy show or laughing or playing sports or hanging out with your friends, or just enjoying those moments. But second of all, from a dad point of view, fun dads, your kids will want to be around you if you're a fun dad. I think that's super important. And, again, I'm guilty. Again, my daughter's playing hockey. I'm trying to coach her. I'm trying to help her. And I need occasionally to step back and think, no, look, she needs to have some fun, because if she has fun, she'll want to come back next week and the month after, and then the year. And then she's got a skill set to, when she goes off to university, to play hockey and make friends and and all this type of stuff, basically. So they're the 2 points I'd look to leave with.
I love it. That's a great point. If this ever comes in handy for you, I've found something this last season with my baseball team. Each team's a little different. but we want to your point, we want to have fun on the field and make sure that they want to come back and keep playing, because we don't want to burn these kids out at like 8, 9, and 10. That's just sad. We also don't want them just kicking dirt, picking noses, and throwing rocks at each other on the baseball field when the ball's flying at them. So one thing that my coaching team and I have done this year is we have our baseball hats, and hat forward, that's focus time. Hat sideways, that's like goofball time. So we'll intermix hat sideways moments in the practice and then hat forward. And it's been funny because halfway through the season, we've had a number of kids that'll call each other out and be like, hey, hat forward time, hat forward time. And sometimes when someone's down and they're getting in their head, walk up to them, give them that serious face, and then you just do hat sideways, and you watch their face crack into a smile, and then put it back, and it kind of resets them. So I love that you brought that up. And you know, we can't forget to turn our hat sideways from time to time as adults, because
exactly.
Everybody wants to be around somebody that's more fun and doesn't feel like a downer. So, but dude, Lee, I love, I mean, we just touched the surface. I feel like we could go on for all these topics are so great. And I just want to say, I appreciate what you're doing, helping guys out there, helping, whether it's athletes, business guys, but also specifically the dads too, the ones that recognize that there's these worlds of performance in the business life and success, and then success at home and leading their home team. My hat's off to all those guys, and you're helping them. So I just want to say thank you for that, and appreciate you being on the podcast here with me.
Welcome. Enjoyed it.
So before I let you go, if people want to learn more about you, I'm gonna include it in show notes, but we're gonna send them to cognitiveathlete.co.uk for the website. And is there any other place that they can follow you just to check out your videos and the 9 things we need to work on?
So LinkedIn is just my name, Lee Eldridge. Or I've actually started doing some stuff on TikTok just to reach out in a different platform. So it's at the ambitious dad. I'll send over the kind of the link and stuff like that. So trying to just get some short videos of kind of ideas and get some feedback out there. It's a very different platform to LinkedIn in terms of the feedback and comment you get. But hey ho,
TikTok is a different beast. Yeah, that's a different beast. It's a totally different audience too, for sure. But Lee, appreciate it, man. Look forward to staying in touch with you, and yeah, maybe we'll jump on here again sometime. Awesome. Thank you, brother. Well, guys, if you've made it this far in the podcast, I know you've got something that you've taken away. I've got a number of things. I'm going to wrap this one fairly quick, because I think that there's some really good points on here that, you know, as Lee said, we want to make sure we celebrate the wins. I also don't want to like overly overload you with information, and let us take some of the things that we've got and kind of think about it, because we've got some really good chunks in here, some good nuggets. I want to know how long you guys can hold your breath. So, you know, shoot me a message on Instagram or YouTube or email, whatever. Because I know a bunch of you are sitting there. You're like, I hope you weren't doing any driving, by the way. But you're sitting there and you're like, okay, then I could beat this thing. Well, hey, no matter what your outcome was, think of it as an indicator of where you are, as a data point, and then you look at where you want to be and what you can do to get there. That's what this game's all about. It's not judging us where we are. It's about knowing where we are and knowing where we want to get to. The void in between creates tension. That allows us to go and draw action steps that then can help us get to where we want to go. But when I have guys like Lee, I love just seeing the similarities, even though we're countries away, time zones away. Hey, so are you guys that are listening. We have a lot of UK listeners. We have a lot of Sweden listeners. We have Germany, and then US, Canada. Hello, everyone that's listening. And I appreciate that. And here's the cool thing. We're all coming to the table as dads. No matter what your day looks like, we have some things that are very similar, and then we have some things that are different. And that's where we can learn from each other, ultimately to get better, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I will challenge you on this one. Go out, kind of evaluate where you are with fueling yourself so that you got the energy to go and dominate the world that you're in, however you want to go after that. But really showing your kids what it looks like to lead, to win, help them find those successes so you can celebrate with them. And while you're out there, don't forget to have a little fun. Because if you're going after something, I just want to say, do you know why you're going after it? What is your end goal? Because if you're going after it so much and you're grinding down to a point where you're not enjoying your own life, make sure you know why you're going after that thing. Because sometimes we found that the thing that someone wants, like if they're going after, I want to have this and this and this by the time I'm done, and all those things they actually could be doing now, like if it's time with your family, time with your kids, things like that, don't miss this window. So just evaluate. If you have any questions, hit me up, Zach, at SkilledDad.com. You can follow us on the socials at SkilledDad at TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. You can go to YouTubefordads.com is our YouTube channel. But ultimately, if you thought of somebody during this conversation, this is a cool way to start up a conversation. Share it with them. Say, hey, man, I listened to this thing, made me think of you. Take a listen. Let me know what you think. Let's chat about it. That's a great way to spread the love and show somebody you care. But ultimately, I hope you took something that you can take and apply to your life and your journey to becoming the skilled dad.